Good afternoon, I'm Alan Udell, and this series of videos is Healthcare Advocacy, where we address problems in the healthcare system, then take actions to try and make a better system for all of us. Today is March 8th, 2024. It's International Women's Day, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Before I go too far, down below in the YouTube description box is a link to the Healthcare Advocacy newsletter. It's free. You can subscribe and get this stuff delivered to your inbox every day. Okay, let's get started. Oh, I should mention all of the links to all of the studies and analyses and reference articles, all of that stuff, all those links, they're in the newsletter. Okay. International Women's Day is a great day to tell the women in your life how important they are to you. Well, every day is a good day to do that. The first Women's Day was 28th of February in 1909. It was in commemoration of the 15,000 women who protested in New York against harsh working conditions and lesser wages. In 1910, it was proposed as a national holiday in Germany. On the 19th of March in 1911, the first International Women's Day was actually held, with more than 1 million people in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland taking part. The day's purpose varies from country to country. In some, it's a day of protest. In others, it's a means to promote gender equality. In some countries, International Women's Day is observed as a national holiday. I did read that in China, women get half a day off. Anyway, in the US, it's pretty much not recognized, but it's a good day to recognize that women are less than equal and do something about it. So let's talk about women and equality, because it's not close. Women are more likely to be in low-wage jobs, experience sexual harassment, and be responsible for caregiving. They also have higher poverty rates, earn less than men, and are underrepresented in political office. Gender-based violence has long-term health and economic effects on survivors and their families. It also has costs related to healthcare, criminal justice, and lost productivity. Gender bias continues to create barriers for women, including ensuring equal economic opportunities, educational equity, and an end to gender-based violence. Now, while there is federal legislation that prohibits sex discrimination in federal programs, sending the right to an abortion to the states severely damaged women's right to bodily autonomy. In fact, 40% of the women of childbearing age live in states with bans or strict time limits on the availability of abortion, some of which are just not even useful. It's effectively a complete ban. Some even impose criminal penalties on women and their providers. This inequality was mentioned in last night's State of the Union message, and good for Joe Biden for mentioning it. There are people who want to strip voting rights away from women. Could you believe it? The Republican candidate for governor of North Carolina is one of those. There's a link to a Rolling Stone article about him. His name is Mark Robinson. Do yourself a favor. Don't vote for him. Let's talk about inequality in healthcare. There's a good book about how women are treated differently called Sex Matters. It was with regards to healthcare. It's written by Dr. Alison McGregor, and she spent 15 years collecting this data. And I got to tell you, some of the stuff is subtle, but incredibly important, the things that people are unaware of, that physicians are unaware of. Anyway, it's just not a lack of aware of symptoms or not listening or built-in bias in the medical profession. It really is complex. She highlights the lack of fundamental research into how women's bodies work and how to account for those differences in diagnosis and treatment. Let's talk about a few. First, of course, reproductive health. Women are less than full citizens with bodily autonomy in almost half the United States and subject to prosecution when seeking an abortion in many states. This is not just healthcare, this is subjugation by those who seek to create an authoritarian theocracy in the US. What's the norm? Research has also shown that men are treated as the norm in medical education textbooks, while women are underrepresented. For example, a study of 17 anatomy textbooks found that men are represented more frequently than women. Another study found that men are more likely to be depicted as the normal body, even when there's no reason to show one sex over the other. There's an inherent bias by the authors, which gets translated down to the students. How about pain? Disparity in pain. It's widely known that although women experience more chronic pain conditions than men, like fibromyalgia or endometriosis or migraines, although quite frankly, I get those, their pain is treated less seriously. 45% of women in a recent study said that their healthcare providers did not take their pain seriously. Women experiencing pain are more likely than men to receive a sedative prescription instead of a pain medication prescription. And there's a link to a Harvard reference article on that, Harvard University. Let's talk about the heart, cardiac issues. Women present cardiac issues like heart attack differently from men, and they suffer for it because not everyone is familiar with the different symptoms. The results of a study published online on December 10th, 2018 in the Journal of the American Heart Association, of course there's a link to it, adds to evidence that physicians who care for women may be less conscious of and attentive to those risk factors in their female patients, and that women sense that their concerns are not taken as seriously as they should be. According to Johns Hopkins Medicine, women are more likely to report disparities in care and treatment for heart disease than men. These disparities include communication problem with providers, doctors not listening, and overall dissatisfaction with the healthcare experience. Let's talk about health insurance disparities. According to the World Health Organization, the average employed single woman in the U.S. on single healthcare coverage spends 18% more out of pocket on healthcare per year than a man. And that excludes pregnancy-related expenses, so don't think you can sneak that one in there. Employers in the U.S. are required to provide healthcare insurance premiums at an equal cost to men and women, but many products and services that women require are just not covered, and that's just not fair. All right, let's summarize this. There is such a long way to go. Reproductive health care needs to be restored nationwide. Additional research into women's health care needs to get into high gear. Insurance plans need to step up and cover the follow-up care and the medicines that are not covered right now for women. The medical profession needs to listen and be aware that women are not men and treat them appropriately. Now, the Biden administration, last week, I think, authorized an investment in women's health issues of $100 million. Well, that's a start, but it's just a start. So let's take the action that I'm going to describe for you to help improve the lives of more than half of us. Here's the action. Let's remind our members of Congress and senators that we want equality for women in the U.S. That means pass the Equal Rights Amendment. Pass H.R. 12 or Senate Bill 701, the Women's Health Protection Act that restores abortion rights nationwide. H.R. 767 or Senate Bill 4467 that protects access to Medication Abortion Act nationwide. H.R. 4121 or Senate Bill 1999, the Right to Contraception Act. Their contact information is down below in the YouTube description box, or it's in the newsletter. You can call or email them, or you can use RESISTBOT, and I'll tell you how to do that in a minute. One of the things you should add while you're talking to them is get additional funding for fundamental research into women's health and just try and level that playing field. That would be great. Okay, now you can use RESISTBOT on your cell phone. Text SIGN, S-I-G-N, space, PZV, SIGN, S-I-G-N, space, PVZSLA, that's PVZSLA, to 50409, and here's the email you're going to send. I'm your constituent. First, happy International Women's Day. Good day for you to start making sure that women are treated equally, and I strongly encourage you to pass, and I list the 4 bills there: Equal Rights Amendment, Women's Health Protection Act, Protecting Access to Medication Abortion, and the Right to Contraception. I also want you to make sure you know that according to the World Health Organization, women have more out-of-pocket medical costs than men, and please address that. This does not include pregnancy items. Thank you. Remember, my vote is based on these issues. Okay, thank you. Down below, you can like, share, and subscribe. Send comments in the YouTube box or to me at healthcareadvocacy1@gmail.com. Have a good evening.